While this course is all about WordPress security, it would be wrong for any course on WordPress security not to mention that security is not just about making sure WordPress is locked down on the web server. It's also about making sure that every potential point of weakness or exposure is protected as much as possible. As they say, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, and it's pretty certain that any interaction you'll be doing with WordPress is probably going to be from your home or your office computer. So let's start by looking at how secure your local environment is. Do you have good, reputable antivirus software installed? Is it kept up to date? When did you last do a full scan? Protecting your computer from viruses and other malware doesn't have to be expensive. In fact, the whole thing can be done completely free. Here's the software I use, Avast, and I just use the free version. There is a paid version which adds all sorts of bells and whistles, but quite honestly, it looks to me like a lot of stuff that I'm probably never going to need and never going to use. This is great software. It's completely free, so there's no excuse not to have good quality antivirus software on your computer. And this is something that works with both the PC and Mac. But it's not just viruses you've got to worry about, there's other malware as well. Now, the antivirus software such as Avast will pick up other malware, but to be honest, I personally think you're better with dedicated anti-malware software in addition to your antivirus. When I'm talking about other malware, the sort of thing I'm talking about is things like keyloggers. Now, if you search on Google for remote keyloggers, you can see here 400,000 results, and there's plenty things to choose from. Now, you might be thinking, why am I going on about antivirus software, anti-malware software, keyloggers, etc., when you've bought a course about WordPress security? Well, as I said, it's all about end-to-end security. And if you've got something sitting on your local computer which is monitoring every single keystroke you're making and then passing that on to somebody else, then it doesn't really matter how strong your WordPress admin password is. If somebody's detecting every single keystroke, then it doesn't matter if your password's 60 characters long and full of semicolons, uppercase, lowercase, etc., etc. It doesn't matter, because it's gone straight to somebody else, along with your user ID. And that also goes for things like your account details for your domain, your FTP user ID and password. Basically, every single thing you're typing in, regardless of however secure it is going to get passed straight to somebody else. So that's why you need to make sure that your local environment is completely locked down and safe and secure. Moving on, you can see here, this guy here is talking about keyloggers at hotels. So it's not just your home computers you've got to worry about, it's also when you're out and about and you're using hotel computers, that sort of thing. I mean, basically these guys were installing keylogger software on the hotel's computers, and they were signing in as guests using stolen credit cards and then using that access to install the software so they could then steal people's login details for the bank and just about anything else imaginable. So the anti-malware software I use is a package called Malwarebytes Anti-Malware. They've got a whole range of options. I just used, again, just the basic free version for home use, and I found that really good. I've tried different antivirus packages, and I think Avast is very good. But there's even been times when Avast hasn't picked things up, but Malwarebytes has. So I definitely recommend using something like this in addition to your antivirus software. Another one which is quite good for picking up malware is Super Anti-Spyware. But, personally, if I had to choose between the two, I'd go with Malwarebytes. But this is also one which is well worth looking at. So, don't do what I've seen a lot of other people do. Don't just sort of go and buy the antivirus software and download it to your computer. Make sure you actually install it. Make sure you install it, that it's set to run and update automatically, and also make sure that once a week you have it scheduled so that it does a full scan, full in-depth scan of your computer. I mean, all you have to do is just leave the computer on overnight, once a week, and just leave that running. And then you're going to have complete peace of mind. And make sure that your passwords are secure. It's very, very easy to generate secure passwords. I personally use a bit of software called LastPass, and again I'll make mention of this in the resource document that accompanies this tutorial. You can also go to Google and just type in secure password generator, and there's tons of sites out there which will provide you with really, really good, strong passwords made up of alphanumeric characters and all sorts of things. It's also worth looking at things like, again, LastPass and RoboForm to automatically populate the fields for you so that you don't have that sort of worry about trying to remember ridiculously strong passwords or writing them down on a notebook somewhere or a piece of paper or a post-it that somebody can just find. But if you are going to use things like RoboForm or LastPass, make sure that you have them password protected as well. Again, with a fairly strong password so that somebody can't just come to your laptop or computer and just access it. FTP software is something that you would use to transfer files backwards and forwards between your computer and your web server. Now, they're typically set up to transfer files just using a user ID and password, but there's a thing called Secure FTP, which is SFTP, or there's also FTPS, which will encrypt the traffic for you, which makes it far more secure. My advice would be to contact your hosting company to get the information from them on how to set up your FTP software to do this. Wi-Fi. Now, when I'm talking about Wi-Fi, I'm talking about not just your home connection, but also how you connect to Wi-Fi when you're out and about. If you're at home, make sure that you're using something like WPA2. Older protocols such as WEP, Wireless Encryption Protocol, to be honest, anybody could sit outside your house with a basic laptop and some free software, and they could crack the WEP encryption within just a few minutes. WPA2 is the most secure that you're likely to get at home, so definitely use that. And if you're in a coffee shop, the problem you've got is that normally these are open networks, and again, anybody can snoop on what you're doing extremely easily with just free tools. It doesn't take a computer expert or any sort of clever hacker to do that. All you've got to do is a simple browse on Google. You can find the free tools, download them to your computer, and you can be snooping on people in any coffee shop. It's extremely easy to do. So, do you really want to be logging onto your WordPress site or entering banking details or anything else, knowing that people can do this? Well, an awful lot of people do, unfortunately. But my advice to you is get some VPN software. Again, I'll put a few recommendations in the document that accompanies this tutorial. With VPN software, it will encrypt the traffic that you're sending, which makes it extremely difficult for anybody to... They might be able to intercept it, but they won't be able to read it. So VPN software doesn't have to be expensive. There's a lot of cheap options out there. Check the documents that accompanies this tutorial. And lastly, what websites are you browsing? Now, the problem is there's a lot of dodgy sites out there. And Google have gone quite some way to warning people about potentially dangerous sites. But there's always the attraction of sites like Pirate Bay. Now, I'm not saying don't use Pirate Bay and don't use any other torrent sites. That's entirely up to you what you want to do in that respect. I'm not going to make any sort of moral judgment on that. But what I would say is be extremely careful of what you're downloading. And if you're going to go to sites such as that, then definitely use an ad blocker. Again, check the document that accompanies this tutorial. I've got recommendations in there. One of the things with Pirate Bay is that in the past they've been known to have poisoned ads where if you move your mouse pointer over the ad, that's enough to trigger a download onto your computer. And as I say, simply moving your mouse pointer over an ad triggers a download, and that's it. Your computer's infected. So an ad blocker would prevent those ads from getting shown in the first place. So it's definitely worth installing one of those in your browser, and they're free as well, so it's a no-brainer really. As I say, security has got to be end-to-end security, because the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Make sure your local environment is safe and secure. These are very basic steps that you need to do. There's nothing difficult there, and nothing that's going to cost you very much money at all.